You have already made at least one of these mistakes this April. Maybe you made it this morning before you even had your coffee. And the worst part is that it probably looked like the right thing to do. It looked responsible. It looked like gardening. But underneath the surface, something was going wrong, and by midsummer you will wonder why your garden never quite reached its potential this year. That ends today. In this video, I am walking you through 7 of the most damaging April gardening mistakes that quietly sabotage entire growing seasons, and I am going to show you exactly what to do instead. Some of these will feel obvious once I explain them. Others are going to genuinely surprise you. But I promise you, by the time we get to mistake number 5, you are going to want to walk straight outside and undo something you thought was helping your garden. Stay with me for that one because it changes everything. Mistake number 1, planting too early because the calendar said so. Here is the truth that nurseries and gardening influencers rarely talk about because it is not exciting enough. The date on the calendar is almost completely meaningless when it comes to planting. April 1st means nothing to a tomato seedling. What matters is soil temperature, and most gardeners have never once measured it. They look at the forecast, they see a string of 60-degree days, they feel the warmth on their face, and they rush out to transplant. Then a cold snap rolls in, the soil temperature drops back into the 40s overnight, and those tender roots essentially go into a kind of traumatized shock. The plant does not die immediately. That would almost be better. Instead it just sits there, stunted, stressed, and weeks behind where it could have been if you had simply waited. Warm season crops like tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, squash, and basil need soil temperatures consistently at or above 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and ideally closer to 60, before you put them in the ground. Not air temperature. Soil temperature. These are very different things, and conflating them is one of the most expensive beginner mistakes in the gardening world. A cheap soil thermometer costs about $10 and will save you an entire season of frustration. Push it 4 inches into the ground in the morning, before the sun has had time to warm the surface artificially. If you are seeing consistent readings above 55, you are in business. Below that, wait. Cover your beds with black plastic mulch or a dark landscape fabric to absorb heat and raise that temperature faster. Smart gardeners do not fight the soil. They work with it, and they arrive at planting day already ahead of the curve. Mistake number 2, over-pruning spring shrubs before they bloom. This one breaks hearts every single year. Someone looks out at their forsythia or their lilac or their flowering quince in early April and thinks, this is the perfect time to shape it up before the season really gets going. So they go in with the loppers and spend a Saturday morning making everything look neat and tidy. And then those shrubs produce almost nothing for an entire year. Sometimes 2 years. Because what most gardeners do not realize is that spring-blooming shrubs set their flower buds the previous fall, and those buds have been quietly waiting all winter for their moment. When you prune in April, you are not trimming dead wood. You are amputating next week's flowers. The rule that experienced gardeners live by is almost embarrassingly simple once you hear it: prune spring bloomers immediately after they finish flowering, never before. For forsythia, that window opens in late April or early May. For lilacs, late May into June. For azaleas and rhododendrons, right after the blooms fade. You have a roughly 4 to 6 week window after bloom to prune, shape, and do whatever you want to those plants, and they will have the entire growing season to push out new growth and set fresh buds for next year. If you prune now, in early April, you could be looking at a bare, bloomless shrub for the next 12 to 24 months. That is an expensive lesson to learn from a Saturday with the loppers. Wait for the flowers. Then prune. Mistake number 3, skipping soil amendment and going straight to planting. If you are not subscribed yet, let me ask you something. Where else are you getting this level of specific, practical gardening information completely free? Most gardening channels tell you what to plant and then send you on your way. We are talking about why things go wrong and exactly how to fix them before they cost you an entire season. Hit that subscribe button right now and you will never have to wonder what you are missing. Now, back to the soil, because this is where your garden either thrives or quietly struggles all year long. Most gardeners treat soil amendment as optional, something nice to do if you have extra compost lying around. But your soil is not just a substrate for holding roots in place. It is a living ecosystem, and if that ecosystem is out of balance, nothing you plant, water, or fertilize is going to perform the way it should. The single biggest mistake people make in April is tilling the same tired soil from last year, dropping in seeds or transplants, and expecting different results. Before you plant anything this spring, work 3 to 4 inches of finished compost into your beds. If your beds are brand new or your soil is particularly clay-heavy, add perlite or coarse sand to improve drainage. Test your pH. This is not optional. Most vegetables prefer a pH between 6.0 and 7.0, and many nutrient deficiencies that gardeners blame on pests or disease are actually just pH imbalances preventing absorption. A simple soil test kit from your local extension office or garden center costs almost nothing and will tell you exactly what your soil needs. Lime raises pH. Sulfur lowers it. Apply what your soil actually needs, not what the bag at the store says is universally recommended, because your soil and your neighbor's soil are almost certainly different. Mistake number 4, ignoring frost pocket microclimates in your own yard. Your backyard is not uniformly one temperature, and April is the month when that reality will teach you a very cold lesson if you are not paying attention. Most gardeners understand the concept of a frost date on a regional level. They know their last average frost is sometime in mid-April or early May, depending on their USDA zone. But what they do not account for is the microgeography of their own property. Low spots, north-facing slopes, areas near fences or walls that block airflow, these are frost pockets. Cold air is heavy. It sinks. It pools. And on a night when the official temperature stays above 34 degrees, your frost pocket can drop to 30 degrees and kill every tender seedling you just transplanted. Walk your yard on a still, cold morning before the sun comes up. Pay attention to where the frost lingered the longest. Pay attention to which corners of the garden seem to thaw last. Those are your problem zones, and they need either cold hardy plants or the protection of a row cover or cold frame when nights dip below 40. Row cover fabric, also called floating row cover or remay, is one of the most underused tools in the home garden. A single layer adds 4 to 6 degrees of frost protection. A double layer can protect down to 28 or even 26 degrees. It lets light and rain through. It costs almost nothing. And it could mean the difference between a thriving April transplant and a blackened, frost-burned loss. Mistake number 5, watering on a schedule instead of reading your soil. Here it is. The one I promised you earlier. The mistake that seems so reasonable, so responsible, so diligent, and yet it does more quiet damage to home gardens than almost anything else on this list. You set a watering schedule. Maybe every other day, maybe 3 times a week. And you follow it religiously because consistency feels like good gardening. The problem is that your plants do not care about your schedule. They care about their soil, and their soil is constantly changing based on rainfall, temperature, wind, humidity, and a dozen other factors that your phone's calendar does not account for. Overwatering in April is a genuine killer. April air is still cool, which means soil dries out much more slowly than it will in July. Roots sitting in waterlogged, oxygen-deprived soil in 55-degree temperatures are extremely vulnerable to fungal diseases like Pythium and Phytophthora, which move in fast and leave your plants looking wilted even though the soil is soaking wet, a cruelly counterintuitive symptom that causes many gardeners to add more water and make everything worse. What happens next surprises almost everyone. A plant that is drowning often looks exactly like a plant that is thirsty. Instead of watering on a calendar, water based on the actual condition of your soil. Push your finger 2 inches into the ground. If it is still moist, walk away. If it is dry at that depth, water deeply and then leave it alone again. For containers and raised beds, invest in a moisture meter. They are inexpensive, accurate, and will fundamentally change how you interact with your garden. Smart gardeners water less often but more deeply, encouraging roots to grow downward in search of moisture rather than sitting at the surface waiting for the next scheduled spray. Mistake number 6, planting without considering pollinator flow. This one is about something most gardeners simply never think about when they are planning their April beds, and that is the ecological chain reaction that a well-designed or poorly designed garden sets off from spring all the way through fall. If your garden is planted entirely with one category of crops, vegetables only, or annuals only, or ornamentals only, you are not just limiting your garden's beauty. You are limiting its productivity. Pollinators need bloom continuity from early spring through late fall. If your garden has a gap, they move on to find another garden that does not have one. In April, you should be thinking about early season nectar sources that will attract and hold your first wave of pollinators, bees, butterflies, and hoverflies that are just emerging and desperately need food. Hellebores, pulmonaria, early blooming alliums, and Virginia bluebells are extraordinary in this role. They bridge the gap between the very first crocus and the later bulbs, and they signal to pollinators that your garden is a reliable food source. Once pollinators establish your garden in their mental map, they return all season. And a garden with consistent pollinator traffic produces more fruit, more vegetable yield, and more genetic diversity in its flowers than a garden that pollinators only visit occasionally. Mistake number 7, forgetting to mulch after planting. You did everything right. You amended the soil. You waited for the right temperature. You chose the right plants for your zone. You planted with care and intention. And then you walked inside and left the soil bare. Bare soil in April is an open invitation to weeds, moisture loss, and temperature swings that stress your newly established plants every single day until they develop enough root mass to cope. Mulch is not a cosmetic feature. It is not just about making the garden look tidy. It is a functional layer of protection that regulates soil temperature, suppresses weed germination, retains moisture, and as it breaks down, feeds your soil biology. Apply 2 to 3 inches of organic mulch around your plants immediately after planting. Shredded hardwood, straw, wood chips, or pine bark all work beautifully depending on your aesthetic and your plant's preferences. Keep mulch pulled back about 2 inches from the stem or crown of each plant to prevent rot and fungal issues at the base. Refresh it once in spring and once in late fall, and over time, as it breaks down, it will become some of the richest organic matter in your garden. Most gardeners do not realize that a well-mulched bed requires significantly less water, less weeding, and less intervention across the entire growing season. It is the highest return task in April gardening, and it takes 20 minutes. So here is where we are. 7 mistakes. Every single one of them fixable. Every single one of them common. And now you know what most gardeners spend years figuring out by accident. If you are just starting out this season, begin with mistake number 3, the soil amendment, because everything else builds on what lives beneath the surface. If you have been gardening for years and you want one upgrade that will change the way you see your whole garden, go back to mistake number 5 and rethink your relationship with water. That shift alone will make this your best season yet. You came into this video thinking you were doing things right. And now you have a list of adjustments that are specific, actionable, and grounded in how plants actually grow rather than how we imagine they do. That is the difference between a garden that looks like effort and a garden that looks like abundance. You have the knowledge now. Go use it. Your garden is waiting.